does thermography detect spots in the lungs?
Good question. No. Answer is no. Have I seen lung cancer on thermography? Yes, many times. You'll see it a lot of times from the backside on the spine, like the rib cage area. So you'll see that. When I say spots, we don't see spots. We see temperatures. Once again, if lung cancer is it would have to be pretty prominent because there's a lot of air and space deep within there that for it to radiate to the surface, it's something that would have to be pretty advanced by then. I wouldn't use it for any kind of, first off, it's not a screening test for it, but I wouldn't use it for any kind of reliability for early detection. What it can be useful for is looking for like maybe associated lymph nodes. A lot of people with lung cancer will have their supraclavicular lymph nodes hot, and we can notice that, or other lymph nodes in the chest region.
Okay. Awesome. Another question. Can you please talk about thermography for areas besides the breast, which now we're talking about some areas on there. The person has said that they have a tumor in their liver that is reversing, which is awesome. And she is going to do her first half body thermography in 2 weeks. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, so I would first get a baseline. In other words, we're not detecting liver cancer. We went through that already, but we're looking at the abdomen. There's inflammation in the abdomen. And usually we see it in people with, you can see it with people with liver cancer, usually. People with liver sluggishness, intestinal backup, toxicity, drinkers, alcoholism, we really see it in those cases. So if the liver is hot, get your baseline, see where you're at, and then any changes you're going to make. Again, we don't get into treatments, but whatever treatment you're doing, whether it's natural or conventional, you can monitor the temperature difference in your abdomen as one of the things you're looking for. Okay, I wouldn't make it the only thing I'm looking for and the only base of liver cancer. That would probably not be the right thing to do. I would add in their ultrasound or whatever else they want to use, but certainly it could be one of the indicators. And in fact, I like to relate it like this. In other words, if you have I don't want to use COVID, it's too cliched at this point, but let's say you're a child and you had strep throat or something, and your mom would measure your temperature under your tongue. Okay, it's, whatever, 102.6. Okay, she's going to take it again a few hours later. It's going down or up. What is it doing? Is it getting better or is it getting worse? Okay, so thermography can be used in that same manner for any disease of the body because that's what it does best. It measures temperature.
Okay. And oftentimes, when we hear about, even just for instance, the body temperature being elevated, we think that could be a bad thing, but oftentimes it's just the body signaling, okay, we've got an issue here. We have to address it. It's the same thing in this case, right? There's issues that are going to show up in the body. They're going to show up as heat. We need to address those and kind of look further to determine, is this, something that we need to be concerned about? Or is this, like you had mentioned before, average hormonal fluctuation and change in pattern? But especially if it's someone who already is aware that they have a tumor, to go ahead and monitor this over time as part of their toolkit, if you will. It sounds like this can actually be beneficial for them in that regard.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I think if you just take a simple process, you get an injury, whether it's a compression injury on your forearm. Let's use that as an example. If I took a thermal image before I hit myself, it's going to be normal temperature, whatever my baseline is. I hit it hard enough. I'm not going to do that to myself, but if I did, it would create inflammation, and that temperature would go up 2 or 3 degrees, probably for 3 to 5 days, typically. Okay. And then you would expect to see a decrease of that as it's healed, because inflammation brings healing to the area. You would see that go away and start diminishing down to 1 degree difference. After about 6 weeks, it would probably be normal again. So anything in the body you can take as that. Now, again, if we're seeing it constantly increase from test to test, and you don't have to wait 6 months for this. I have people with cancer that are doing monthly, okay, where we're checking, making sure it's not going up, 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 which in my opinion and my experience would be that it's getting worse, okay? But where it's either stabilizing or getting better, that would be the key, unless the treatment sometimes is creating inflammation, which is possible. So.
Okay. Yeah. And I love that too, because sometimes we hear the word inflammation or inflammatory circumstance, and many of us are like, we kind of know that is an indicator of an issue or something that is going to perhaps turn into an issue. But the inflammatory response is actually initially a healing response. It's when it stays in that inflammatory state that then we kind of get into trouble. So love that. Okay. Another question Rachel has asked, can a whole body thermogram be helpful for metastatic breast cancer in order to avoid additional CAT scans?
The clear answer from my previous comments is no. It can't prevent you from doing other tests. This is used in addition, not only according to its clearance, which I said earlier, but I would also say I would not rely on it for anything internal at all. Personally, I've done these studies myself, not studies, but I've done my look-ats. I've looked at these things, and no, it wouldn't be a good test to replace those tests. It would be a good exam in addition to those tests, because this may see things that they don't, and vice versa.
Okay, awesome. So essentially, oftentimes thermography can be used, like you had mentioned, just as like a bonus, if you will, as well as a different viewpoints, like another set of eyes looking at it. It's like a second opinion, if you will, in some ways, in the sense that it can determine and show up different things that maybe some of the other tests. So it's a greater whole picture that this person can get by utilizing thermography in addition to some of those other scans. Is that correct?
Yeah, the thing that has made me understand it better over the years is, comparing apples to oranges analogy. Whereas, they're looking for anatomical differences. We're looking for heat temperature differences. There's a huge difference there. We're looking for physiological responses to what they're looking for. Sometimes physiological responses come before an anatomical finding. So in other words, before a breast tumor grows, it's going to have some inflammation associated with it before it could actually show up on an X-ray, which is a mammogram. So there are times we're going to see things earlier or differently. Sometimes we're just seeing a healing response. So you have to take all the information. There's, like I said earlier, there's no one magic crystal ball to look at everything. This is just one of the tools that we have available.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Another question has come in. Michael has said, if someone has tumors and lumps that are cold to the touch, how confirmatory would most thermograms be in pointing to malignancy, which would have more blood flow, more vascularity, versus benign ones, which he assumes would be ice cold? Can you talk and address that?
So I'm assuming we're talking about skin cancer tumors. It sounds like, if it's superficial, unless I have seen some breast cancers reach the surface. But if we're just talking about general speaking, I think if something has vascularity and it's close to the skin surface, it's more than likely going to show up as hot. Okay. We have done studies. In fact, the former Soviet Union did a lot of studies on skin cancer with thermography. They used thermography as a very, prominent tool. It was pretty much mainstream. And Dr. Sepper, who works with BTI, worked in that field with them for, I think, 35 years as a gynecologist and radiologist. So he had to his ability, the ability to use all radiology. In fact, he did use that frequently. However, the studies that we've seen show that most skin tumors that are tumors and not benign will show up as hot and significantly hot. And not only will it show the tumor location, but tumors, including skin tumors and breast tumors, will get what I call legs, which it's not just what they're seeing on the X-ray, that is the malignant part. There's a whole tail or leg or whatever you want to call it that is also hot. So when you're removing one of these tumors, say as a dermatologist, it would be wise to use a thermal camera the day of the surgery to get in there and get that component out. Same thing goes for lumpectomies. When they do a lumpectomy, they should have a thermal camera with them because they're able to see the extent of that. A lot of recurrences of lumpectomies happen because they're not getting the margin. Okay, but with thermography, I'm not saying we can see the physical margin, but we can see the heat margin, which is going to allow that surgeon to get in there better, to scoop that part out, because usually it stems from the areas that we saw prior on thermal images that are the ones that are going to grow back again.
Want to learn what the leading edge science says about the most proven anti-cancer diet? What about experiencing the joy and power of meditation, emotional freedom, energy medicine, yoga, and ancient healing methods? Or how about learning from world-leading doctors and health experts what you can do to protect yourself and your family from chronic disease and live a long and healthy life? Imagine if you could learn directly from cancer conquerors how they beat cancer using holistic diet and lifestyle approaches. And imagine understanding why certain supplements work, others don't, and what to look for when choosing effective supplements for health and vitality. And what if every month you could get your most important health questions answered by world-leading integrative and holistic physicians and health experts? Now, it's all possible inside Healing Life. Join the health revolution today at healinglife.net.